In the 2011 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Klay Thompson from Washington State University. With the 15th pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers select Kawhi Leonard from San Diego State University. With the 30th pick in the 2011 Draft, the Chicago Bulls select Jimmy Butler from Marquette University.
Yes, the 2011 draft somehow 10 years ago today. So guys, let's get into this. This segment, what, Max Kellerman? It's called Molly's Deal because it's dealer's choice and I'm the dealer. So I want to know, who is your biggest draft steal of all time that didn't go in the top 10? Max, you're up first.
Jokic, clearly, easily. Jokic didn't go in the top 10, he didn't go in the first round. In the modern era, no other second-round pick has ever won an MVP. He is the reigning MVP of the NBA, taken in the second round. Greatest passing big man maybe ever. Can shoot the lights out as a low, down low. And he was a second-round pick. It's Jokic.
Stephen A., who you got?
Max, I give you credit where credit is due. I wasn't even thinking about that. You're absolutely right. I would tell you, just for, I wasn't really thinking about this subject too much because it was just an opportunity for me to give Klay Thompson praise. I saw his video where he was working out again yesterday, got back on the court for the first time. This was the 11th pick in the 2011 NBA draft. Kyrie Irving was picked before him, obviously. Guys like Derek Williams, Enes Kanter, Valanciunas, Bismarck Biyombo was picked ahead of him. Brandon Knight, Kemba Walker, Jimmy Fredette was picked ahead of him. Klay Thompson is one of the top 5 shooters in the history of basketball. A career 42% shooter from three-point range. He's so lethal, and I miss him so much. I cannot wait until he's back on the court healthy with Steph Curry. It's just my own personal affection kind of thing. I just love watching him. That's all. Max is right about Jokic because he was a second-round pick, but I'm just a Klay Thompson guy, man.
Let me throw another name at you guys that everyone loves. Manu Ginobili.
Yep.
Right? 16 years with the Spurs, 4-time champion.
I thought about him.
Right? I mean, come on. He went 57, as in he almost was not drafted.
Right. Almost undrafted. Moses Malone was the last top guy undrafted. Yep.
All right. Yeah. All right, that'll do it for us.
The ABA, really.
We'll be back tomorrow breaking down the game. Stephen A., get some sleep. We will see you in the morning. Bye. I'm into First Take. Thank you for being with us. Hello, Max Kellerman.
Molly.
I'm Molly Karen Rose. Stephen A. Smith, good day. Saw you all over the coverage. Fellas, let's get right into it.
What's so funny to me is Stephen A. got 90 minutes sleep because of airline delays, right? He said he was going back to take a nap at the place. There's always a million things to do. Good luck getting a nap in. And then the game ended late last night, and there was stuff to do after the game, and he's working on. You didn't catch up on any sleep. You're not fooling anybody.
I did. He's right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I heard you on the cold open. You could barely get the words out.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I'm tired as hell, but I'm ready.
You're always ready when the light goes on. You're always ready.
When the light turns on, so does Stephen A. So let's do this because that finish, unreal, guys. Again, the Suns shining up 2-0 as they head to L.A. Still no CP3 or Kawhi Leonard. DeAndre Ayton in action with a finish for the ages. Props to him for executing and Monty Williams for dialing it up. High risk, high reward as they're sitting pretty. But not so fast. Don't count out Ty Lue and the Clips with their backs against the wall, and Paul George has been shouldering much of that load. Paul, talk to us.
With this team, if anything, we're more confident. Every series we've been down 2-0. We've handed over 2 wins to the other team. But if I know this team correctly, the fight we have, going into Game 3 and the fight that we have to believe that, we're going to change the series. That's who we've been and that's who we are. And so I'm very confident in our group. And, fact of the matter is they did what they were supposed to. They won their 2 games on their floor. We got to go home and protect our house.
I know I say it every time, but seriously, playoff P with playoff hair there, always on point. Stephen A., you're up first. Is this series all over?
I believe it is. I do believe it's over. And when I say it's over, I mean the Phoenix Suns, I believe, are going to win this series. It doesn't mean it's not going to go 6 games or 7 games or 5 games. Well, I don't give a damn. I'm just telling you that when the series is over, I believe the Phoenix Suns will be going to the NBA Finals, because I don't believe the Los Angeles Clippers without Kawhi Leonard can beat the Phoenix Suns the next 4 out of 5 games. It's really, really that simple to me. That's where I'm at with it, Max.
No, I don't think the series is over at all, but we're on the same page about one thing. You have to have Kawhi. If they don't get Kawhi back, it doesn't matter if Chris Paul's playing or not, they're not going to win this series. But with Kawhi, Stephen A., you absolutely can't count them out. Number one, Kawhi Leonard's one of the all-time great postseason performers. It doesn't mean he's never messed up in the playoffs. We saw against Denver, but he's got 2, not 1, but 2 Finals MVPs. And if they gave out an MVP for the whole playoffs, he'd have won at least one of those 2, which is the real NBA season that matters the most. He's an incredibly clutch player, a great two-way player, and as I said, a 2-time Finals MVP. 2, Ty Lue. Ty Lue, for my money, is the best coach in the league. Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra, by the way, Monty Williams, and others. But if I had a coach for my team, I'd want Ty Lue. And Stephen A., we've seen it twice so far in these playoffs. The Ty Lue team has come back down 0-2. And the greatest comeback ever against the invincible 73-win Warriors by the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016, down 3-1. Ty Lue coach team. So you got Kawhi, if Kawhi plays, and you got Ty Lue. And then finally, Stephen A., they just had home court, a raucous crowd, a great performance by Booker. You had a great performance by DeAndre Ayton, Monty Williams drawing up plays, the whole thing. They, by the skin of their teeth, defended home court just now, won both games. By the skin of their teeth, they won both games. Don't tell me the Clippers at home with Kawhi can't even it up, and now it's anybody's series best of 3.
Well, what I would tell you is that this segment was supposed to be a quick segment, and clearly you ruined that notion. So since you did that, let me say this to you. Yes, Ty Lue can coach his butt off. Yes, the Clippers are capable of doing a lot of different things. But here's my thing. When they came back from 0-2 to Dallas, they had Kawhi Leonard. When they came back from 0-2 against Utah, they had Kawhi Leonard pretty much for the most part before he got injured late in Game 4. So I'm looking at it from the standpoint that in this particular situation, not only do you not have Kawhi Leonard, but the Phoenix Suns won the first 2 games without Chris Paul. Chris Paul will be back Thursday night, okay? Just trust me on that. He'll be back. And as a result of him being back, and Devin Booker, by the way, how many games is Devin Booker going to play like he played last night? We don't see that very often from Devin Booker. I don't think we'll see it again. I think he'll play significantly better than he did last night. Cameron Payne, a reserve, comes off the bench, Max. A backup point guard comes off the bench, okay, and drops 29 with 8 assists in 37 minutes without one single turnover. Let me tell you something right now. When I think about that, I think about a Cameron, Jordan, him coming out and hitting all 5 of his shots. I'm looking Cam Johnson. I'm sorry. When I look at him hitting all 5 of his shots, this dude can be a marksman. He can hit from long range. I just look at Phoenix right now, and I say they were just as handicapped in their own way as the Clippers were. Okay, but somehow they won the first 2.
That's right. They were both behind the 8 ball in terms of not having their best player or their leader. Bottom line,
and I don't think Kawhi may be back.
That's a whole different story. If that's the case, I'm hearing the same sort of thing. Then it is over. But if Kawhi comes back, keep in mind, on the road, they lost by a single point on a miracle play after Paul George missed both free throws.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Max. I'm glad you brought that up. So Paul George, an 85% career free throw shooter, missed the 2, as you just mentioned, 8 seconds remaining. Max, how much of this loss falls on PG-13?
I can't put it on Paul George. Look, that moment's not for him. I know he hit a clutch shot before then, but it didn't surprise me that he missed those free throws. He has a reputation in the playoffs for a reason. But Stephen A., he's a number 2. He's not a number 1. They're playing without their number 1. And he didn't have the most efficient game, but he played well enough that his team was in a position to win, right? If you're going to count those free throws against Paul George, then you also have to count Kevin Durant's air ball against KD. I'm just saying, most people don't count that against KD. I'm not counting this against. I'm not saying this. Paul George is the reason they lost that game.
Well, recline back in your chair and take notes about the game of basketball. right here, right now. Because that's one of the most utterly nonsensical things that came out of your mouth. When you talk about Paul George, okay? Paul George showed up and went on a personal 8-2 run, Max Kellerman. But did you know that this season, first of all, for his career, Paul George is an 84.7% free throw shooter? This season, he was shooting 86.8% from the free throw line. Do you know that in more than 100 tries this season, Max, Paul George missed 2 free throws once in February? In February, one time. The other 100 plus times that he had an opportunity to hit both ends of a free throws, he made them. He's never missed 2 free throws in a row but once in a regular season in February. Now, Max Kellerman, I'm not the one that loves to use the word choke. You do that. You've done it with James Harden. You've done it with a few other players. Fair enough, because I understand where you're coming from with that, even though I don't agree with you about James Harden. But here's the deal, Max. To me, the definition of choking is when you do something all the time, and then the moment arrives, and all of a sudden that's what you don't do. Paul George is at the free throw line, and he did something he almost never does. When Paul George bounces the ball and he spins the ball before he shoots the free throw, he never puts his head down, Max. What he did last night, he put his head down and took a few extra seconds to think before he launched those free throws, because he was caught up in the moment. He literally missed those 2 free throws because no. Not listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is he missed those 2 free throws because of the moment. If he hits those 2 free throws, Max, he's up 3. If he hits those 2 free throws, he's up 3. If you're Monty Williams, you got to call a play for a 3-point shot.
Professor
you don't
Naismith.
get to call an alley-oop at the basket on the inbounds play because you're down 3, not 1. Him missing those 2 free throws cost the Clippers the game.
Yeah, okay. Professor Naismith, I have a question based on the notes I just took. If you do something that it never happens to you, right? And then it happens to you under pressure, that's when you say you choked. How often does Kevin Durant airball threes, especially in the final minute, say, of a regular season game? Is he airballing threes?
Almost never.
KD airballed a 3. Now, I'm not going to say it's KD's fault that KD
When did he airball a 3?
He airballed a 3 in the last
I'm sorry,
series.
I honestly don't remember.
In Game
when
7,
did he airball a 3?
Last shot of the game. With the game on the line, he could have taken. He could have 3 seconds left in the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You mean,
Yeah.
hold it. You mean a guy that played all 53 minutes?
You just said,
and
when
shot
did he
a
airball a
contested
3?
Hold on, time. Hold on, wait a minute. Wait, but he played all 53 minutes and he dropped 48. That is just, Max, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm sorry. That's just a dumb statement. That's just an absolutely dumb statement you just said.
Except that
he dropped 48
I am making
points.
the point.
He was busting their butt.
I am making
and
the
point. Is
point.
he was a contested 3.
He had
no legs.
KD had a great game. If it was not a good 3 to take, he had 3 more seconds to get a shot off. He should have taken a higher percentage shot. He thought he had a matchup. He had an open look. He took the shot. He missed it. And his team lost. It was Game 7.
Why are you allowed to talk basketball?
That's the definition
Why
of
do I have to listen to you
So if
talk
you're going to
basketball?
blame Paul George for the missed free throws, you got to blame KD for the missed 3.
So you're comparing a free throw.
Yeah,
So
he had a good look at a 3. He airballed it.
Hold up. You're comparing a free throw in regulation from a guy that got rest that usually makes the free throw to a guy that shoots a contested 3 after playing
Stephen A.
52
I'm
minutes
not
and
blaming
55
KD
seconds. That's what
or
you're
Paul
doing?
George. I'm not blaming either one of those dudes. But if you blame Paul
I
George,
want
then you
extra
got to
money,
blame
Molly.
KD.
I want extra
Fellas,
money from the company.
listening skills.
That I have to listen to this man talk
Yes,
basketball.
yes, Miss
You don't
Molly.
need to listen to him.
Jimmy
Listen to
Pitaro,
me.
Norby Wilson. I want more money to have to listen to
Yes,
you.
Miss Molly.
Oh my God.
I'm listening. See,
oh my Lord.
Thank you. I'll
Go ahead,
have an
Molly. I
apple on your
apologize.
desk tomorrow.
I apologize,
I took
Molly.
notes for
It's
Stephen
all
A.
right.
I'm listening to Molly.
At Milwaukee, Game 1 tonight, Trae Young and Giannis. Max, does ATL have to steal one of the first 2 to win this series?
No, they don't. I don't know where we got hung up on this. I know, look, the team that goes up 2-0 is likely to win the series, right? That's why you want home court. But what do we always say? You got a series once the road team wins a game, once the home team loses a game. Why does it have to occur in the first 2 games? Have we seen the Milwaukee Bucks of recent vintage, last several years, the Giannis Milwaukee Bucks blow a 2-0 lead? Yeah. They've done that in the not too distant past. Does Trae Young seem to be the type of cat that's going to get demoralized by being down 0-2? And he has Collins. He has a little crew with him. They can play. They can score. And look, Giannis is still the same guy who you can wall off against, you can wall him off, you can wall up against him and force him to do things that he's less comfortable doing in the playoffs, which is why he needs his role players to step up and his second and third bananas to step up. So that falls on Middleton and Drew Holiday. And the reason those guys aren't perennial all-stars, they're once in a blue moon all-stars, once in a while all-stars, is they don't do it consistently, Stephen A. So must the Hawks win one of the first two games to win the series? No. They just eventually need to win a single game on the road.
Wake up. Just think of me as your alarm.
I finish. I mean, listen. I fell asleep during that damn soliloquy because here's the deal. We're not looking at history or tradition or what the records show about teams being up 2-0 as a reason for saying the Hawks can't afford to be down 2-0. We're looking at the match. We're looking at the matchup. And the reality is that when you see the personality transplant on the defensive side of the ball that this Milwaukee Bucks team has had since P.J. Tucker has arrived. When you think about Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and the fact that the combination of the three no longer have a Kevin Durant to be concerned about. Certainly Trae Young is a star and Trae Young can ball and we all know that. But he's no Kevin Durant. He's not 6'11", with a 7'6" wingspan that can pull up from the parking lot. He's a miniature guard who's cat quick, who can cause you some problems if you're not careful. We get that. But the personnel that the Milwaukee Bucks have in place, certainly I look at Atlanta, they can shoot the basketball. We can't ignore that. We can't ignore the fact that they can't shoot the basketball. I'm sorry, I dropped my mic here, slipped off my tie, guys.
Yeah, why don't you just take a second, put it on, because it's rubbing against something there, Stephen A.
I got you. Got me now? You got me now?
Gotcha. Yep.
Got me now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks. You can't ignore the fact that Bogdanovich and Collins and these guys can shoot and play. But if you look at Milwaukee, Max, I got to be honest with you. I'll be shocked if this series goes past 5 games. It just shouldn't go past 5 games. Unless you hack a Giannis and you send him to the free throw line and he does a poor imitation of Ben Simmons at the free throw line. Unless you do that, there is no excuse for this Milwaukee Bucks team, considering its size, its perimeter shooting ability, its defensive prowess, its experience, the fact that even if Giannis is bad, he can still give you 25 and 10, along with their depth. There is no reason why the Milwaukee Bucks shouldn't go up 2-0, go to Atlanta, steal one of those two, and come back to Milwaukee and close it in 5 games. I'd be shocked if that didn't happen.
By the way, I like the Bucks in this series in 5 or 6 games, something like that. About that, we agree. What I'm saying is, I don't think their success, the potential success for Atlanta, is predicated on them stealing a game on the road. In other words, they can lose 2 on the road. I think they're going to lose a series anyway, but that not because of that. They can defend home court. They're fully capable of beating the Bucks 2 at Atlanta. And then eventually, like I said, just about the other series, you just have to win a single game on the road. It doesn't much matter where in the series that occurs if you defend home court.
But I think if you steal one in Milwaukee, then chances are you'll get one in Atlanta, and you'll come back after 4 tied 2-2 with a best of 3, which I think would put them in a really formidable position. I think if you fall down 0-2, then that's not the case. I don't see them winning 2 straight in Atlanta to tie the series. That's one thing to point out. And Max, what I want you to think about is this. Even though we saw Milwaukee collapse, we saw them a couple of years ago in the conference finals succumb to Kawhi Leonard. because Kawhi Leonard, when Nick Nurse walked into the locker room, as my man Phil Handy, he was on All the Smoke a little while ago with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, and he was highlighting what a dog Kawhi Leonard is, obviously complimentary, of course, that's what I mean by that. And what he was talking about was how Nick Nurse walked into the locker room after they were down 0-2 and said, we got a few adjustments to make. And Kawhi Leonard said, the adjustment is I'm guarding Giannis. Period. And walked out the damn locker room. And that was that. And the series turned from there. But you also had Kawhi going berserk. A bigger guy, 6'8", couldn't be pushed around, could do his thing. Last year in the playoffs, when they lost to Miami, who was the guy making noise? Yeah, we saw Tyler Hero and other guys, but Jimmy Butler was up in them as well. And Bam Adebayo. What I'm saying is with Atlanta, the key is going to be Trae Young. And when you consider how miniature he is, it reminds me of a couple of years ago when they went against Boston, when Kyrie was there. And Kyrie was in Boston, and as electrifying as he could be, even though you still had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and those boys, the reality is a miniature dude going up against Milwaukee doesn't bode well for them. And that's how I view Atlanta.
The way I look at this, I like the Bucks to win, and partly it is because Trae Young is small, because Drew Holiday is as good as you can do guarding a small guard. Like, if you need a guard matchup and you have a dynamic point guard on the other team, but he's small, you want Drew Holiday on your team. That's what Milwaukee has, and that matchup, I think, is pivotal. He ain't going to stop Trae Young, but he can limit him in certain ways. So I also like the Bucks to win. But the way I view this question, do they have to steal one, is what's the personality of the best player on the team, on Atlanta? What's the character of their leader? Trae Young does not seem to me, we haven't seen him in this position before, but he does not seem to me to be the kind of guy who we're down 0-2 and he won't rise to the occasion. He seems to me, matchup, whatever, he is going to give it his best effort and lead his team to at least a victory or two that they wouldn't otherwise have. In other words, it's not like we're down 0-2, series is over, because I don't think Trae Young is that kind of player, whatever his height.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with you about that. I'm just saying that I'm just looking at the matchup, and I'm looking at the weapons that Atlanta has at its disposal against this particular Milwaukee squad. And I think matchups, as they say, match styles and matchups make fights. And I think for the Atlanta Hawks, this is the worst case scenario for them remaining in the playoffs. I think going against the Clippers, they got a better chance. I think going against the Phoenix Suns, they got a better chance. But I look at Milwaukee, and I just look at their size, their perimeter shooting, and the personality transplant that P.J. Tucker has infused in that defense, along with Drew Holiday. And I think that's a lot to overcome. I hope I'm wrong, because I'm on record. I'd rather be in Atlanta.
Atlanta's the fourth best team left in the playoffs.
So, I'm rooting for them.
If we had to rank the best teams left in the playoffs, most people would put Atlanta fourth out of four. They're not quite as good as the other teams if the other teams are at full strength. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, the four teams remaining,
Ain't
none
that
of
what
them
I
have.
just said?
Stephen A's focused on the cities.
Go ahead, Molly.
Listen, I got nothing bad to say about Milwaukee. I got a lot of calls. I hear it's a great city.
I tried to help you,
so I got to stay
It's
open
all right.
with me. Mr. Smith, where are you? Let me see that face. What was the biggest reason for the Suns' win?
Well, to me, the biggest reason was two-part. Number one, it was Cameron Payne, as I mentioned earlier, a backup point guard that obviously has been counseled and tutored by CP3, that played 37 minutes, shot 50% from the field, 12 or 24 shooting, finished with 29 points, 8 assists, not a single turnover in 37 minutes. That is a spectacular game numbers-wise. It didn't look spectacular because there was a lot of sloppy basketball on the offensive side. The guys were just missing shots. I shouldn't say sloppy because they didn't have a lot of turnovers last night. They just weren't making shots. I'd bring him in and DeAndre Ayton, who was it, at 24 and 14. The brother's playing big time. You got to give credit where credit is due. Former #1 overall pick that was picked ahead of Luka Doncic and Trae Young is flat out balling and validating his stature as a former #1 overall pick, because you can't teach 7 feet, and he's really the lone big man that they have. So I give them to a lot of credit, no question about it. That's what comes to my mind more than anything else.
Well, when one guy takes two, who am I supposed to talk about now exactly? I'm going to talk about DeAndre Ayton, because that's the reason, Stephen A. DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 overall pick, and guess what? You can't call him a bust. You cannot call him a bust. If you're the number 1 overall pick and you can't be called a bust, you're a hell of a player. And DeAndre Ayton was already on his way. CP3 clearly accelerated that this year. Let me tell you why they won last night. And the Clippers so far have demonstrated to me they're the superior team on a neutral court. If you need miracle plays and the other team to miss free throws and everything and you're winning by a possession at home, then you're probably beating a better team. Let me tell you why they're winning, though, without their leader, without Chris Paul. Because DeAndre Ayton has come of age. He has arrived in these playoffs. He matched up with AD. Too green. I mean, AD was hurt, but no, that was not the case. AD had his hands full with DeAndre Ayton. Oh, now it's Jokic. How's he going to stop Jokic? Because Jokic can kill you passing, too. He did that, too. DeAndre Ayton has elevated himself now to all-star status. When the season starts next year and we look at him, we're going to be thinking potential all-star this year. He has a very good chance to make that team and make it on an ongoing basis. And what does that mean? It means, unlike a team like the Bucks, who, hey, we have Giannis and Middleton once in a while might make an all-star team, and has Holiday ever made one? That kind of big three. No, they have Chris Paul and Devin Booker and now DeAndre Ayton. That's a legitimate big three. It's the last remaining one. And what does that mean? It means even when one of those guys isn't playing, in this case, Chris Paul, their leader, you still have enough. He was dominating the boards and stretches in that game. Forget about the winning alley-oop dunk, right? But he was the difference. You bring Cameron Payne, and they have a good team, but DeAndre Ayton was keeping them in it even when the shots weren't falling. He has arrived. Phoenix has a big three. Even without their leader, they were able to win.
All right. Let me ask you this, Stephen A., coming to you here. So the final 1 minute, 57 seconds of the game took over 33 minutes of real time due to lengthy reviews. How bad is this for basketball?
It's horrible for basketball. It's incredibly bad. Listen, the last minute and a half took about 30 minutes to finish. The last 30 to 40 seconds took about 27 minutes. There is no excuse for that. Zero. And it's a bunch of micromanaging that's coming from the league office. It's a mandate down to the officials. Scott Forster, the lead official last night, did not have a handle on things. It just took too damn long. Too much stuff to figure out. It should not have taken that long. I completely support Jeff Van Gundy complaining about it, even though Mark Jackson was hilarious, calling them Groucho Marx or whatever the hell he called them. Listen, basketball is a rhythm game, like a lot of other sports. And you have to take that into consideration, and we have to accept human error. Now, obviously, you have with the advent of instant replay and all of this other stuff and technology, Max, where you can slow things down and get it correct. We understand the importance of that. I'm not attacking, the fact that you're doing that. I'm attacking the fact that somehow, some way, after all of this time, you haven't mastered to expedite the process and to get it done quicker. Because you got to take into account the fact that you're playing within the flow of a game and you're affecting potentially someone's performance. If you play basketball, Max, and you're sitting on the bench, what was the thing that we went off about Frank Ntilikina, with the Knicks when they lost to the Atlanta Hawks in Game 1? What we went off about, Max, was that Tom Thibodeau pulled Frank Ntilikina off the bench.
Cold,
hadn't played him the entire game.
Right.
And flat out cold, you're asking him to guard Trae Young.
Basketball is a game of
There's something
flow.
to be said for that. Well, but that's a coach messing up or a player messing up. That's not the officials. In this case, you got the officials disrupting the game because clearly they haven't mastered their art to the degree that they should have, so you can expedite this process. I think it's an incredibly bad look for the league, and it definitely was a bad night for Scott Forster, the official.
Right. This is the debate show, but I don't think we disagree about this one. It's just that we're just going to agree about this. I think there are two separate issues. One, should you even involve instant replay the number of times that they did, because it messes up the flow of the game, right? That's one. But two, like the NFL, what takes so long? What the hell takes so long? I'm sitting in my living room. I can see in 5 seconds on instant replay. Okay, sometimes I think I know, and then they show another angle, and I go, maybe see the third angle. Stephen A., I'll know in 15 seconds the right call on my couch. right? But people who are trained in this, who have the technology right there, it takes them a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It's absurd. It's absurd. Make the best reasonable guess you can make based on the instant replay and move on, if you're even going to use it. Now, sometimes there are things like that play with Devin Booker when Pat Beverly poked it out and everyone was complaining about it. Yeah. Actually, I understood why they did the call the way they did. Usually when a guy pokes it out, it's at least simultaneous. Like if he's not the last guy to touch it, his hand's on the ball at the same time as the other guy. What instant replay showed there was, no, in fact, clearly, Devin Booker's hand was on the ball last, even though Pat Beverly forced it out. No one liked the call, but by the letter of the law, they got it right. I'm not beefing with that. A lot of people have beef with that. I'm not even beefing with that. But get the thing done and move on. It does not need to take that long. Again, if you're on your couch and you know you're 90% sure within 15 seconds, why do they need to take 5 minutes? It's ridiculous. It ruined the flow at the end of that game.
And you're empowering the officials to dictate an outcome when you lag like that. And you got to remember, the game took over 3 hours. The game took over 3 hours last night.
Even the last play, Monty Williams draws up the last play, and Jeff Van Gundy was calling for it, right? So it was a brilliant play, yeah, but Jeff Van Gundy knew what to do, directly into the alley-oop. But you don't even have time to set everything up if there's not so much time taken on replays. It's like extra timeouts.
No question. Thank God for naps and espresso. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. All right, guys.